The Chancellor has announced the government's plans for tax and spending for the next financial year. This year's budget took place earlier in the year than usual to avoid any possible clash with Brexit negotiations in November. The budget comes hot on the heels of the Conservative Party conference, during which the Prime Minister claimed that austerity was coming to an end. Rumoured to be on the Chancellor's agenda were pension tax relief reform, further clampdown on tax avoidance and the introduction of land value tax. I am Androulla Soteri, and I have here with me two of our tax partners, Nigel May and Patrick King, to chat through some of the key announcements and help us make sense of what the Chancellor has said. Nigel, what do you think about the proposals that were announced today?
Well, Androulla, I think the first thing that can be said is after a number of budgets which were relatively boring from a tax perspective, this one actually did pull a number of rabbits out of the hat. On the personal tax side, perhaps the most surprising thing was to see that there was no change to pension taxation. Pension reliefs remain as they were before. Probably that's quite welcome because there's been so many changes in pension taxation over recent years. Other personal tax measures, the personal tax allowance acceleration, so to £12,500 from April 2019, and the higher rate threshold set at £37,500, so that you only start paying 40% tax at £50,000, again was not predicted, and I would say it's quite welcome. It's quite nice actually from a logic viewpoint, because £50,000 is the point at which the child benefit clawback starts happening. So we've got a matching of the higher rate threshold and the child benefit clawback. That's quite good. One of the other predicted changes to the tax system that has ended up being far more limited is with regards to entrepreneurs' relief. There were rumours that entrepreneurs' relief that currently has a £10 million lifetime allowance might be reduced to £5 million or £2 million or some other similar large reduction in order to reduce the cost to the Treasury. As it's turned out, the changes are really quite limited and impact on shares. Now, in order to get entrepreneurs' relief from April 2019, you're going to have to be able to show that your shareholding carries with it 5% of the voting rights, 5% of the income participation rights, and 5% of the capital participation rights, if you're going to benefit from the 10% entrepreneurs' relief. That is making the rules somewhat stricter than they are at present, and probably means that if you're in the position of being impacted by these rules, this is something that needs to be looked at between now and April.
Patrick, what are your thoughts on what we have heard today?
Well, from the business side of the point of view, some generally quite positive changes as well. We saw strangely no change at all, or no announcement of any change with regard to capital corporation tax rates with the like to Brexit. Obviously in the past the Chancellor has indicated there may be reductions to corporation tax rates, although they've not happened yet. He's kept his powder dry there. But positive sounds for capital allowances. We've seen a new structures and buildings relief being brought in from today, whereby building of new non-residential property will engender reliefs of 2% per annum. Not a huge amount, but it all helps. It's very similar to the old industrial buildings allowance that people of Nigel and my vintage can still remember. So that's the good news, partly paid for by a change to the special rate of allowances on fixtures, which is being reduced from 8% to 6% from April next year. Another change is with regard to annual investment allowance, which is currently relatively small and being increased to £1 million from 1st of January next year for 2 years. Now that's a significant hike and is obviously an attempt by the Chancellor to unlock some of the pent-up investment potential in the UK economy, probably held back by uncertainty over Brexit. So what he's hoping is that businesses will start spending more money on and investing from the 1st of January. Interestingly, because he's chosen to start that from the 1st of January and not immediately, we're likely to perhaps see a delay or a lag or a reduction in spending for the next couple of months or so, but then in the new year we should see some increases. Less positive news perhaps, a small change to capital loss relief from April 2020. large businesses with significant capital gains may find themselves restricted on brought forward capital losses, in line with some of the changes to normal loss relief in businesses. There's also been some quite significant changes on business rates relief for small business. They are the small business, less than £51,000 rateable value, but they will see quite significant reductions to their rate charges. So that's good news. So generally good on the business side.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Nigel. You can find a full summary of today's budget, together with further analysis and other helpful information on our website, mcintyrehudson.co.uk.